My mother refused to strap on her big girl pants when she found my other form of a strap-on that's not related to pants, and now she's not letting me stay at her house and she's not coming to my college graduation because I live this life. My father warned me about my mom being extra furious. He left her alone for not a long time, so my father suggested it was maybe something my mother found in my room. She was in there when he left to do errands. I realized that I put some of my and my boyfriend's bed toys in a drawer of my desk. I did not think that it would be such a big thing. That's where I always stored my stuff. These were at the front, and the spicier things were in a black bag. I thought they would not open them, considering they might have a clue what they could find. Yet here we are. My mother, less than 2 days, found my strap-on, its accessories and some stuff. She told me she won't come to my graduation, and if I want to keep this lifestyle I have to move out in half a year. My mother was always the easygoing type, the cool mom, who was never restricting me in any way. I knew that is something she is more reserved in, but I did not think me having toys would be this enormously tragic. Yeah, I thought that it would be an embarrassing situation. She really blew up. She was throwing things, screaming, even with my dad. So my dad had to ask what my mother found. He was already fed up with my mother anger, so he just looked down and shut the door gently. So now I'm a stupid hoe? And if I continue to live this lifestyle, which means I own toys, I have to move out, I am not allowed to talk to her and she is disgusted by me. For now, she won't come to my graduation, and she won't let my boyfriend, or anybody, sleep here. I don't know what to do. It's not like I can apologize for that, right? It's my life. Or was I in the wrong? I'm confused. Edit, thank you for your comments. Today's my graduation day, none of my parents are talking to me. My father is nonverbal, but helps me when I ask him. My mother is giving me silence treatment. There are some details you have been interested in. My mother's thoughts. She shouted to me that how disgusting things I do with my boyfriend and maybe others. The emphasis was on the boyfriend part, and how she does not want to see him here ever again. He has slept here before and I've been in relationships since I was 16, even in long-distance ones. So my past boyfriends were spending even a week here, it was never a problem. She were even asking playfully if I took ex-boyfriend's name yet and so on. So me smashing is not a problem, me owning toys are. Toys fate, my boyfriend will take them to his home. Plot twist, his parents are really religious though, his father is a priest. I hope you won't get in this much trouble as I did. After 2 months, we can move back into our dorm rooms. Thank you everyone for your insights, your sweet words. I love the funny comments too. Soon my graduation starts, so I will update later. Update. More than half a year has passed since my original post. As it could have been foreseen, my mother didn't show up to my graduation. I wish it would have ended there. Although she couldn't bring herself to show up, she kept spamming me with disgusting messages even half an hour before the start of the ceremony. For example, she snooped again, and threatened me that she will send pictures of the toys to my boyfriend's family. I was so disappointed in her that I didn't lie to cover up her insanity. Funny thing is, the first person I told the real reason why she was absent was my grandma, and she was cool with it. Every single family member was there but my mother. You could feel the embarrassment and tension in the air, but I tried to calm everyone down with she is the one all alone, not me. It's still heartbreaking to see the pictures of this day. Traditionally, there is a dinner after the ceremony with a circle of family and friends. That was where the true awkwardness began. My roommate, bless her heart, did her best to keep a funny atmosphere, but my mother ruined the whole celebration with her drama. My mother sent me a message to throw out our items tonight or I should never step into the house again. So after the party I had to get those and some clothes, because I went to my boyfriend's place afterwards. He had his own graduation barbecue party the following day. My dad was in the middle of paying the bills in the restaurant, so I went to collect my bag with my boyfriend and my roommate. When I stepped out of the car, I asked them to stay outside, because I was afraid that my mother would actually hurt them. As I mentioned in my previous post, she is crazy when she is behaving like this. I quickly grabbed my things while my mother barked at me from the living room, and when I was almost out the door, I told her with the calmest voice, the most honest tone I could, that all I wished for was her to be there. And that's when I messed up, again. I realized I left my keys in my bedroom, so I had to go back there. She followed me and attacked me. She started slapping and punching my face. I immediately felt cold. I was just empty. After some punches, I held her wrists down and asked her whether this was worth it. When I let go, she continued her rampage. She spit on me, told me numerous insults, like how I'm not even her daughter, and I am a slut, and this is the slippery slope and one day I will be screwing 5 guys at once, and how I am the biggest disappointment and she is so disgusted by me that she doesn't want to be in my life anymore. After a while I felt dizzy, so I had this gut feeling of you have to leave. As soon as I escaped out the door, my father was on the other side. I couldn't even look at him, I just ran down the stairs. When I was outside, I was trembling, crying, I was in shock while my boyfriend and my roommate tried to console me. My father came out after a while and asked about what happened. After I told him, he said that it would be better if we would actually leave. I was crying during the whole ride. At my boyfriend's place, I could see that there were some bruises next to my eye, and I felt so ashamed. After like 3 days, I went home and found out that my mother moved into my room. She started throwing everything I had, even my curtains, into the living room, and I was basically living on the couch for at least a month. My father didn't talk to my mother at first, they were fighting via messages, but to tell you the truth, my father couldn't choose a side. He even told me to get rid of some of my things, because he cannot live and function in a mess. I didn't want to sleep on a couch either. During that time, I tried to search for a job. I had my first interview, but sadly I wasn't chosen. I wanted to become independent. My godmother asked whether I want to move in with them, but my father was begging me to stay. On my birthday, I got my room back, and my father was hurt that I wasn't happy. I told him that how can the withdrawal of undeserved punishment be a birthday gift? Why should I be grateful? Since then, my parents are back on track. They had a teenager-like phase again with roses and cute gestures while I was trying to hide in my room. I felt like I was a forgotten character of a romantic drama. I was sure that my father loves this whirlwind of a relationship. He once told me that your mother is like hell when she is mad, but when she loves you, she wholeheartedly loves. I actually read some self-help BPD book, because I was certain that my mother has undiagnosed BPD. Even if she doesn't, that book gave me comfort back then. I spent most of my summer at friends and on some prepaid vacation. Everyone was so nice to me. One of my friends even gave her apartment for me and my boyfriend for a couple of days, so we could be together on our own. My boyfriend's parents are strictly religious, so we couldn't tell the truth about why my mother was like that. And because they are so religious, we can't show any affection when I'm there, and we cannot sleep together. I had to sleep with my quote-unquote mother-in-law in the same bed once. My father told me one day that it would be better if I didn't come home often when uni starts again. He said that my mother can be more controlled when I'm not around, and whenever she hears that I am going home, she always gets nervous. Although that statement hurt a lot, I accepted it, and somehow deep in my heart I knew that this should be the best way. So university started again. I couldn't get a part-time job related to my studies, but I was dreaming of doing a second degree along with my master's. I had my savings for this, so I actually followed my heart, and I'm doing both. Luckily, my father still sends me some money on a monthly basis. I get some social scholarship too. My father had to keep my mother in this newly found honeymoon phase, so he bought some tickets to Greece. He sat me down one day when I went home and told me that he only bought 2 tickets because we are not ready for a vacation together. What did he mean? We were not on speaking terms with my mother at all. I wasn't mad that I wasn't able to go. I was mad because I felt like she was given all these expensive and heartfelt gifts, while all she did was beating me. And because of her drama, I didn't get my graduation gift, which was a trip to London. It felt like he spent that money on her instead. I had to look after my dog while they were away, and when they arrived home, my mother was telling all these stories about their time there. I always hated this out of the blue mood changes, but this was the point where we were talking again. I wasn't trusting her at all. I still wasn't coming home often, maybe once a month, mostly when they had some other things to do, so I could spend some peaceful time with my dog. They started to come to my dormitory often with no real reason. They bought me clothes, gifts which were uncalled for. It felt like they wanted to buy me back with materialistic things which I never actually liked. Saying sorry would have worked way better. This new behavior made me so confused, like I wanted to stay away from them. That was something I even talked with my father about, yet they were trying to get closer and closer. There is a free but short therapy-like service at my university, so I could talk this out with a clinical and family therapist. Whenever I was at home, I would try to talk to them like we used to. Not deep talks, but about what happened to me. I could feel that although they were so eager to give me some unnecessary gifts, when it came to the emotional side, they weren't that invested. One day Mother changed her tone again, and told me that despite her talking to me she hasn't forgiven me and that it is so annoying that I mention my boyfriend and she doesn't care about him. She was hysterical, and she wanted me to know that if I end up with him later, she won't show up my wedding ceremony either, and she won't visit me in the future. That was the point where I realized I should really not get hopeful anymore. Since then I cannot tell them any stories, because I live with my boyfriend, so he is in most of the interesting memories of mine. I would have to leave him out of the story, and that is really mentally tiring, and honestly, it would break my heart. It helps that they don't even ask how I am, so me and my parents are just really drifting apart. What is interesting that although I was really a spoiled princess kind of a child, I always had this conflict within me that I felt so incompetent that I had mental issues. I was afraid that this world was too hard for me to navigate, and was so behind of my peers. I couldn't do any house chores, because my mother wouldn't let me do them, and she didn't teach me anything. But now that I see her once a month, and I am barely talking to her, I started washing my clothes at the dormitory, I learned to cook simple dormitory-friendly dishes, and I take care of my responsibilities. I even went to my doctor for an ADHD appointment. A year ago my mother dismissed this idea and invalidated it. I realized slowly that most of my mental issues came from my mother, and that she had some control over me with keeping me infantilized yet criticizing me all the time. She could do this because I'm lightly disabled, and she could take on the caregiver role. She could keep me in a bubble while leaning on me for emotional support. I had to listen to her and her traumas since I was little, and talk to her for hours. Still, she could blow up per year or even more frequently, blaming me because I was a bad child. I wasn't. And as a little kid, I had to convince myself that I wasn't one. I had to disassociate when she would shout at me or even slap me to not believe her harsh remarks. And my father could never choose a side back then. I never heard a sorry in my life coming from her, yet I had to make cards full of effort and tears to beg for her forgiveness, even though I knew it wasn't my fault. I could regulate my emotions better than her even as a little girl. And now that I can keep my distance and boundaries, I feel more peaceful than ever. I always heard this almost cliché sentence, it gets better when you move out, but now I can resonate with it completely. At the moment I find joy in my university studies, I can actually perform well. When I was writing my thesis, my mother would always torment me and say that I'm not writing the thesis in the pace I should. She told me that I should have finished earlier, that I was wasting my time, but these comments just made me freeze up more, and I had more suffocating thoughts of failure and anxiety and self-hatred. While she haven't even gone to high school. Nowadays I don't tell anything to them apart from that I'm busy, which is true, or some very safe to tell stories so they feel like I give them some information about my life. I have a lot of great people around me, my friends are motivating me, and can surely say that I can work better when I get positive feedback than mean comments. My relationship is quite strong, and I'm grateful for my boyfriend that he helped me along the way. Summer wasn't easy for neither of us. My father is still in the middle of my mother's insanity. He still sends me warning messages from time to time, that my mother is a ticking bomb again, and I should not go home if I can. There was a family vacation 2 months ago where my mother was trying to be as passive as possible. She was watching Korean shows in her room while we were spending time together with the others. I think she felt guilty because they are the very same family members who were at my graduation when she was not. At the end of this vacation, my father told me that he is thinking of getting a divorce, and how she is sucking out the positivity out of him. But he backpedaled, he wasn't taking action, and I see this puppy love for my mother in his eyes again. I feel sorry for him, but it's somehow relieving to see that I'm not the main root of my mother's irrational outbursts. She will always find something to stir things up. My parents are getting used to this low contact, let each other live approach. I am relieved that they aren't pushing for more. Despite this emotional distance, my father still helps me financially. This is the reason why I'm able to keep this up. In the future I would like to focus on getting financially independent, but for now I feel great and free. Thank you for reading.